In this video, I'll explain how to stop being an employee of your own business and walk you through the legal path to scaling. You are going to learn the exact legal structures, entity strategies, and asset protection moves that separate business owners who scale from business owners who stay stuck. I'm Santiago Cueto, board-certified international business law expert and best-selling author based right here in Miami, Florida. I've spent years helping entrepreneurs break free from the very businesses they created. And the reason I made this video is because I keep seeing the same pattern destroy promising companies from the inside out. All right, let's dive in. Here's what that pattern looks like. You start a business, you pour everything into it, you handle the sales, you handle the operations, you handle the bookkeeping, you answer every email, and then one day you wake up and realize something painful. You did not build a business. You built yourself a job. Actually, you built yourself the worst job imaginable. One with no benefits, no time off, and a boss who never lets you rest. And that boss is you. But here's the one thing. The problem is not your work ethic. The problem is your legal structure. And when you fix the structure, everything else starts to change. I call this the founder's trap. It is the single most common mistake I see entrepreneurs make again and again. And it is not a mindset problem. It is a legal architectural problem. The founder trap works like this. You register a basic LLC or sole proprietorship. You put your name on everything. You sign every contract personally. You run all revenue through one account. And you operate day to day as the person who does everything. And the business can't function without you. Not for a day, not for a week, certainly not for a month. Now you're probably thinking, this is just what it takes in the early stages. And I hear that all the time. And I understand why it feels that way. But here's what nobody tells you. The legal choices you make in those early stages are the exact things that lock you into the trap later on. The way you set up your entity, the way you structure your operating agreement, the way you handle contracts and liability, those choices either build a cage or build a runway. Let me give you a real-world example. I had a client who ran a logistics company, 7 figures in revenue, profitable, growing, sounds great, right? But he could not take a vacation. He could not hire a general manager with real authority, and he could not bring on investors. The reason why was simple. His legal structure treated him as a business itself. There was no separation between the owner and the operation. Every contract had his personal guarantee. Every vendor relationship depended on his signature. Every bank account was tied to his social security number. Instead of owning a company, he was the company. And that is not a business you can scale. That is a business that scales you into the ground. So what is the way out? That leads me to something I call the separation framework. The separation framework is a legal strategy that moves you from operator to owner and is not one single filing or one magic document. It is a sequence of structural decisions that creates distance between you and the day-to-day machine. The first piece is entity selection. Most people think choosing between an LLC, an S Corp, or a C Corp is just a tax decision. It's not. It is a scaling decision. The entity you choose determines how you can bring on partners, how you can compensate key employees, and how you raise capital, and how protected your personal assets really are. You see, when a business owner tells me they want to grow, my first question is always about their entity structure, not their marketing plan, not their sales funnel, their legal foundation. Because you cannot build a 10-story building on a foundation designed for a shed. Now here's where it gets interesting. The second piece of the separation framework is your operating agreement. This is the document most business owners either ignore completely or download from a template website for $39. And that is a catastrophic mistake. Your operating agreement is the internal constitution of your company. It defines who makes decisions. It defines how profits get distributed, and it defines what happens when you want to step back, bring someone in, or sell the business entirely. Without a properly drafted operating agreement, You have no mechanism to delegate authority, and you have no legal basis to install a CEO or a managing director. You have no succession plan. You are the business permanently. But with the right operating agreement, you can create roles, authority levels, and decision-making structures that allow the company to run without your hands on every lever. That is the shift from employee to owner, and it happens on paper before it happens in practice. Now, the third piece is contract restructuring. Every agreement your business has with vendors, clients, landlords, and service providers needs to name the entity, not you personally. You see, when you personally guarantee a commercial lease, you have just changed yourself to that obligation. When you sign a vendor agreement in your own name, you have just made yourself liable. Every personal signature is another chain. All right, let me keep going, because the contract piece is where most people lose their corporate veil protection entirely. You have probably heard the term corporate veil. Most business owners think it means they are automatically protected just because they formed an LLC or a corporation, and that is dangerously wrong. I call this the paper shield illusion. Just having an entity on paper does not protect you. Courts pierce the corporate veil every single day, and when they do, your personal assets, your home, your savings, your investments are suddenly on the table. The reason why this happens is because business owners treat their entity like a formality instead of treating it like a living legal structure. They commingle personal and business funds. They skip annual meetings and corporate minutes. They forget to keep the registered agent current, and they fail to maintain adequate capitalization in the business. And they use one entity for everything instead of separating risk across multiple entities. Now, you might be thinking, I do some of those things. And look, most business owners do. And that is exactly the problem. Every one of those shortcuts weakens the wall between your personal life and your business liabilities. When a lawsuit comes, and when you are scaling, lawsuits come, the opposing attorney's first move is to argue that your entity is a sham, that there is no real separation, that you and the business are the same person. And if they can prove that, well, the LLC or the corporation means nothing. You are personally on the hook. But here's the good news. Fixing this is not complicated. It requires discipline more than it requires money. It requires treating your business entity with the respect that the law demands. Separate bank accounts, documented decisions, proper capitalization, annual filings, clean books. Actually, let me take this a step further, because for business owners who are serious about scaling, there is one more advanced structure that most people never learn about. I call this the scale stack. It is a multi-entity structure that most sophisticated business owners use to protect assets, create tax advantages, and position their companies for real growth. And right, so here's how it works. Instead of running everything through one LLC, you create a holding company that sits above your operating companies. The holding company owns the intellectual property, the real estate, the brand assets. The operating companies run the day-to-day businesses and carry the operational risk. So why does this matter? Well, because when something goes wrong in the operating company, a lawsuit, a contract dispute, a regulatory issue, the damage stays contained. Your intellectual property is safe. Your real estate is safe, and your other business lines are safe. Think of it this way. A single entity is like living in a house made of one room. A fire in the kitchen burns down everything. A scale stack is like a firewall between every room. A fire in the kitchen stays in the kitchen. Now, this is not something you set up with a template from the internet. This requires careful legal planning. The entities need to be properly funded. The intercompany agreements need to be airtight, and the tax elections need to be coordinated. But when it is done correctly, you have a structure that protects you, attracts investors, and gives you the freedom to actually step away from the daily operations. And that freedom is the whole point, because you did not start your business to become a prisoner of it. You started it to build something bigger than yourself. But here's the part that surprises most people. The legal structure alone is not enough. You also need what I call the exit architecture. The exit architecture is the legal framework that allows you to leave the building without the building collapsing. It is the succession plan, the buy-sell agreement, the management transition protocol, and almost nobody, and I mean nobody, builds it until it's too late. But here's the harsh truth. A business that cannot survive without its founder is not actually worth anything to a buyer. No investor wants to acquire a company where the entire value walks out the door with one person. No bank wants to finance growth for a company with zero leadership redundancy. When you build exit architecture into your business, you are not just planning for retirement or a sale someday. You are increasing the value of your company right now. You are making it financeable. You are making it investable. And you are making it insurable. And you are making it real. This means documented processes that do not live in your head. This means a management structure with clear authority that does not depend on the phone being on. This means a buy-sell agreement that defines what happens if you get sick, if you want out, or if a business partner wants out also. This means key person insurance that keeps the company alive during a transition. Every one of these elements is a legal document. Every one of them needs to be drafted with precision, and every one of them adds concrete, measurable value to your company. Now, the business owners who build exit architecture early are the ones who get acquisition offers. They're the ones who attract equity partners, and they're the ones who actually scale. Everyone else stays stuck in the founder trap, working harder every year for a business that is worth less than it should be. All right, so let me bring this all together for you. Stop being an employee of your own business. The path to scaling is not about working more hours. It's about building the right legal foundation. Choose the right entity. Draft a real operating agreement. Protect the corporate veil. Consider a multi-entity scale stack and build your exit architecture now, not later. These are not abstract concepts. These are specific legal structures that I help business owners build every single day, and they change everything. Now, if this video helped you see your business differently, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel and share this with another business owner who needs to hear it. The information in this video could be the difference between staying trapped and finally breaking free. I'm Santiago Cueto, your Florida business attorney. Be sure to watch more of my videos right here.